It's Danny Flexen here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined by the founder of Duco Promotions and the promoter, of course, of Joseph Parker, among others, Mr. David Higgins. David, how are you?
I'm good, Danny. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, anytime. It's obviously early morning over there in New Zealand, getting
Yeah,
into the
not
evening. Oh, go ahead.
not too early, young kids. So I've been up and been to the gym, and here I
Oh, well done you. I've been up. It's the end of the
am.
day here, so I've got no excuses. Um, yeah, I want to talk to you predominantly about Joseph Parker, not only because he's your most celebrated client, but also the fact that he's coming off what must be, I think you called it to Sky Sports, the biggest win or the best win of his career, the best performance of his career, I think was the wording. I guess, first of all, you're obviously a close friend, confidant, colleague of Joseph, but did even you see that coming? Not the fact that he was going to win, you obviously have belief, but how dominant it turned out to be.
uh, I had an inkling that we would win in a dominant way. Sort of that's how I felt. I actually thought that Joseph might even knock him out.
Well,
Obviously, that inkling was against all the odds of all the global bookmakers, and just about everyone was writing Joseph off to some extent. But I know how much work he's been putting in behind the scenes, and with Andy Lee, the trainer, and George Lockhart, the nutritionist, and with Tyson Fury at his gym. And and I know he's had the bad rub of the green a few times where things have not gone his way. So the renewed focus, the work, plus the fact we were due a bit of luck made me think I had a feeling I thought we might do it this time. And so I was obviously on the edge of my seat throughout the fight, but it was very gratifying and satisfying for our team and for Joseph to for that work to pay off.
and as the fight unfolded, even when it became very dominant towards the end of the fight, knowing that Joshua and Deontay Wilder had agreed a deal to fight in March, and these were, promoted as the semi-finals to that big affair, did you have any concern that Joseph wouldn't get his deserved verdict and decision at the end?
There's always concern, and looking at judging cards we've had in the UK, often you wonder what planet one of the judges has seen a different fight and has it. Even in one of those Chisora fights, one of the judges had it almost draw when Joseph had won nearly all the rounds, and so of course that worry's always there. But because of the way Deontay Wilder fights, I actually didn't think it would go the distance. I thought one might stop the other, and there'd be a lot of trading going on. And Wilder doesn't tend to try and win on points. So it would have to be the robbery of the century for the judges to call it to Wilder, who literally doesn't really throw any point scoring punches.
And we talked about, I mean, you said, as I said earlier to Sky Sports, that it was the best performance of Joseph's career. He was coming in off a good win not too long ago, and well, a couple of wins in a row. But in the UK, I guess a lot of people's most recent memories of him before the Deontay Wilder fight was the grueling defeat, the punishing defeat, in fact, to Joyce. What's the difference between Joseph then and Joseph now? How has he been able to cause what is for a lot of people an upset?
Yeah, well, Joseph's never been an excuse maker, so he's never really talked about this publicly. But he was sick the week of the Joyce fight, and he told us that privately. Um, and George, I think, didn't want him to fight, but Joseph wanted to fight. He did fight, and he looked a different fighter to what we saw against Wilder. And Joseph said that in hindsight, if he's feeling that awful in terms of flu type symptoms or whatever, that he wouldn't. And when it's all on the line, he might make a different decision and say, "Look, I'm not well. I can't fight." But that being said, not to take anything away from Joyce, he won that fight fair and square. And for Joseph, it was utterly grueling, brutal beatdown. It was very, very hard for us at Team Parker to watch him take that punishment and then to go down for the first time at the end of the fight. I think on another day we would bet Joseph to beat Joyce, and maybe that fight will happen again sometime.
And just talking about his relationship, Joseph's, with Andy Lee, they've been together a number of fights now, and you can see his style is changing. Would you say, and maybe this is a question for Andy as well, but is he the finished article as an Andy Lee fighter now, in your view?
Oh, a fighter is always a work in progress, and they say a heavyweight doesn't reach their prime until 35 years old. They're, like fine wine, they mature over time. Joseph is still only 31, so he's fought so many big names and taken all comers. He's almost like a young veteran. But you look at the names on Joseph Parker's record. You've got Carlos Takam, Oleksandr Dimitrenko, Andy Ruiz to win the world title. You've got Anthony Joshua, Dillian White. You've got Derek Chisora not once but twice. You've got Deontay Wilder. There's a lot of quality names, and there's that saying, "I'll fight anyone," but a lot of fighters don't fight anyone. They carefully pick and choose and craft who they're going to fight to minimise their risk. But Joseph's kind of thrown it down a lot of times and will fight anyone and has. And so he's got a big resume of quality opponents. That was the other thing that made me think Joseph might beat Wilder is besides Fury and maybe Ortiz, Wilder's fought tomato cans and he's got 40 odd tomato cans on his record. Whereas Joseph's been on that big stage under extreme pressure more than once. There was the Joshua fight in Cardiff in front of 80,000, Dillian White at O2 Arena, and so forth. And Wilder didn't have as much experience into 12 rounds under those massive pressure cooker big stage occasions. And when Wilder has stepped up to Fury, it didn't go his way. So I actually backed Joseph in terms of the psychological side of it, because Joseph has come short a few times and under pressure. And I thought, he's got more experience now and he's more used to that high pressure and will handle it better. And I think he did.
And just from a personal perspective, given all the highs and lows you've experienced with Joseph over the years, how much does this mean to you that he's delivered in his biggest fight and on the biggest stage?
Yeah, a lot. We've been through a lot. I signed Joseph as promoter 12 years ago, just about, and been with him ever since. And we've had some ups and downs and some highs, with Ruiz and the world title, and then time in the wilderness. After that Joyce beating, a lot of people wrote Joseph off, and then to come back again against Wilder like that was satisfying. I think Joseph can be very proud of himself because he didn't give up. He stuck to his guns. He doubled down with preparation and focus. He did the work and he got the results. And so he can feel very satisfied. And so, yeah, I'm very grateful for Joseph's friendship and loyalty, and to still be part of the journey. And it's not over yet. We have ambitions to unify the division, like most heavyweights should. They should be all in there trying to win the title, fight anyone, unify the division.
And we'll talk about the future in a few moments, but just wanted to ask you, from a promotional standpoint, how easy or otherwise was it dealing with all the various factors involved in putting on a show like the Day of Reckoning?
So the Day of Reckoning card was obviously a Saudi Arabia national event, and they did it well, particularly at short notice. It was previously thought impossible with the politics to put that card together at that short notice. It would not have been possible, but the Saudis, they do not mess around. They move quick. They pay fair money, and all those obstacles disappeared, and the card was on. And then in terms of helping them run the card, they've obviously got their own state-owned event entertainment division, Salah, who are also being assisted by Queensbury. And then I think all the administrative sanctioning side was overseen by the British Boxing Board of Control. So that you've got a motivated promoter who's willing to pay for the best, combined with experienced people executing and running everything. So it was actually no different to fighting anywhere else on a big show. It all flowed as you would expect.
Before we talk about the future for Joseph specifically, I know you said to Sky Sports you feel he's earned now a rematch with Anthony Joshua, among other possible fights. What did you make of Joshua's performance on the same card against Otto Wallen?
I didn't watch it because I was in the dressing room celebrating, although I did catch the headlines and the outcome. And my understanding was that it was all a one-way victory to Joshua, who looked pretty slick, and Wallen didn't show up like he has done in the past. So I don't think Joshua's tested himself again yet. Like, for example, Joseph Parker, the test against Wilder was the highest pressure against a murderous opponent. And Josh was obviously easing back into it, into that top level. And so Wallen was probably the right fight for Joshua, and he came through with no chinks in his armor. So I think it's a good victory for Anthony Joshua, exactly what he needed, and will serve him well.
How do you assess the differences in the two fighters, Joseph Parker and Anthony Joshua, from their first fight all those years ago?
Oh, I think nothing's really changed from what the lines I peddled out when we were trying to promote Parker Joshua back then. And it's the weaknesses and the strengths of the respective boxers are the same. I think Joseph's mentally tougher. I think he's got faster hands. He's probably a better boxer, and he's got a better chin. And I think Joshua's bigger and heavier, and has probably had more big wins under pressure on the big stage. So I think if Joshua can deal with the mental side of it, he's a formidable opponent. But I think if his mental side disintegrates, he's quite beatable. That's my opinion.
And it seems to be, or it's certainly being touted as a more aggressive Joshua against Wallen under Ben Davison. We'll see if that relationship continues. Do you think if he approaches a Joseph Parker rematch in a more aggressive fashion, that plays into your man's hands?
Yeah, possibly, because Joseph's looked pretty good when he's traded. Like when he traded with Chisora, he nearly finished him. When he traded with Joshua, that was when in that fight is when he came closest. He's got a good chin, and even against Wilder. So Andy Lee said to Joseph, "Fight fire with fire," which was good advice. I think Joseph's, if anything, been guilty of being a bit cautious over the years. And when he properly lets his hands go, he's looked at risk of knocking guys out. So if we were given another Joshua fight, I don't think I personally would have a problem with Joseph trading with him or getting into a firefight.
What do you think would be the key differences in terms of Joseph getting over the line this time around and winning the fight?
I think a bit more intense. Like against Wilder, there was a plan, you could see it, and Joseph held his composure, didn't get impatient or frustrated and throw the plan away. There was a plan and an intent, and he brought the fight, controlled centre in. He was throwing those looping overhand rights, trying to hurt Wilder. And I think last time Joseph fought Joshua, he was on the back foot a bit cautious. There wasn't enough fighting going on and enabled Joshua to win on that points victory. So I think if Joseph came in with intent and a plan to dominate and hurt Joshua, if on his day, I think he can beat him.
Now, Eddie Hearn, in an interview with IFL a couple of days ago, said that there's 3 names on the shortlist for Joshua for March the 9th in Riyadh. He's planning to keep that date that was reserved for the Wilder showdown, which your man scuppered, which is obviously great news for you guys. Is there any chance that Joseph fights his way onto that shortlist, or is March too soon for that to happen?
Well, Joseph absolutely would love to fight in March, and if opportunity comes up, he will fight in March. But in terms of fighting Joshua, I don't think Joshua would accept a fight against Joseph Parker at this stage.
And at the moment, the three names that Eddie Hearn mentioned were Francis Ngannou, Philip Hrgovic, possibly for the vacant IBF title, because we've got the undisputed fight before then, and Zhilei Zhang. Would you make Joshua a favourite in those three potential contests?
That's a hard question. I think Joshua will have taken some confidence out of the recent victory, and their timing has come back probably right. So on his day, obviously, Joshua would beat any of them. So if Joshua shows up in that positive frame of mind and is aggressive and things go his way, I back Joshua to beat any of the three opponents. That being said, you saw what Zhang did to Joyce. You know, if Zhang stun punched, yeah, he stun punched Joshua with a heavy one, and southpaws are always awkward. Zhang could knock Joshua out. Similarly, Hrgovic, there's a lot of unknown there. We know how big he is and skilled he is, but he hasn't had that big pressure fight on world stage. How would he react? So there's a mystery around Hrgovic. That fight's not without risk. And then the other one, who was the other one?
Francis Ngannou.
Oh, Francis Ngannou. That on paper that should be an easy fight, obviously for Joshua, because the guy's not, he's not had a career in boxing. So Joshua wins Ngannou all day. It's the easiest fight there is against a big name. So it probably is a money-making fight that's easy, which is the dream equation. That creates its own psychological problems, though, because the worry that Ngannou could knock anyone out with the perfect punch, he's going to knock anyone out. So yeah, do you go in worrying that you're going to be the guy that gives them that knockout? So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they go that Ngannou route.
And first, we've got the undisputed fight. That's in 6 weeks from now. Who do you see coming out on top in that one before we talk about the future for Joseph?
I see Tyson Fury winning against Usyk.
Okay, why? What gives you the confidence to pick Fury in that one?
Just the sheer height, the weight, the savvy decades of experience, dirt street fighting, gym fighting, the skill, the footwork he has, the mental toughness. I don't think Usyk has any or very few advantages there. Then perversely, I think the way Fury went against Ngannou was going to count against Usyk, because Fury will be a bit disgusted with how that played out, and perhaps be even triple focused now on dominating and doing the business. So I think the Ngannou thing would have been a bit of a wake up call, and so Usyk will be up against the 10 out of 10 most focused Tyson Fury there is, I reckon. So could be wrong, but I'd be surprised if Fury didn't do it. I like Usyk. I like his team. Good people, good for the sport. I think like Parker, they'll fight anyone, and don't have too much time for the politics and the padding of record and the risk management by dodging fights. That's not Usyk's style. They're good people, but I think Tyson will be too much.
And you've said you've given Tyson Fury a lot of credit for the help with Joseph in preparation for Wilder and using the gym and any advice he's given as well. They've said, the fighters, that they're not keen on ever fighting each other. You say you want Joseph to unify the division. You're picking Fury to come out on top in the undisputed fight. How do you square that circle?
Not sure. We don't give that too much thought. You never know what will happen. So, Fury might retire. He often talks about retiring.
He does.
And if he's unified, there's no better time to retire. That would be an elegant way to segue into the next crop of champions. But yeah, who knows what will happen? So yeah, I can't answer that right now.
And in terms of March, you said Joseph would love to be back out by then, and it's unlikely, as we know, to be Joshua. What sort of level of opponent would you like to see Joseph go out against while he's waiting for a mega fight?
I don't think Joseph should step backwards. You know, against good opposition, he's looked good and he's got momentum. So I think any one of a Herkovic or a Zhili Zhang or Andy Ruiz
Mm.
would any one of those, if the money's right, would be interesting and testing and learning. You know, it's a big fight. He doesn't want to step backwards. Have I forgotten anyone? Even Ngannou could be interesting.
So in a way, if Joshua takes what you considered the easiest of the three in Ngannou, and Joseph goes out and beats a Zhang or a Hergovic, is that a bit of a mental advantage and another aspect of selling a rematch with Joshua and Parker?
Yeah, yes, it is. It'll put Joshua. If Parker could beat like a Zhang or a Herkovic, and then Joshua beats an Ngannou, then Parker's just had Wilder and then say Herkovic, whereas Joshua, Wallen, and then Ngannou. It would be hard for Josh. It would put Joshua in a difficult spot. It would be hard for him not to accept the Parker fight unless there was a big fight with Fury, the winner of Fury Usyk. But then again, Parker might have a better claim on that than Joshua if he'd beaten those two opponents. So it will get interesting. If Parker can just stick to his guns, stay focused, and win, and get a bit of luck on the side and win the next big fight, it gets quite interesting. It'll corner Joshua somewhat.
And just finally, it seems unlikely, but if the Parker Joshua rematch does occur, have we got any chance of having it in the UK?
Yeah, why not? Like some of the pay-per-view platforms in the UK are still world leading. You do fill stadiums, and the money for those mega fights, they will still happen in the UK now and then, I think. So of course there's a chance, but obviously also everyone likes a guarantee without any risk. And so for now, the epicenter of world boxing is going to be in Saudi Arabia.
Great stuff. David, I really appreciate the time. I'm sure you're incredibly busy. You're just starting your day there, so I can only imagine what's in store. But no, really appreciate it. And let's catch up again soon, maybe once Joseph has a date in the diary.
Sure thing. Thank you, Danny. Appreciate the time.
All right, brilliant. Take care. Speak
Cheers.
soon.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.